Hey Right Riders, Keith Wheeler here, back with another video for you. And today we're going to talk about, should you do a children's book series? Well, if you've been considering doing a children's book series, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And if you're excited to learn my takes on it, including pros and cons of doing children's book series, then make sure that you give this thumbs up a smashy. With that, let's get started. First of all, there are three main types of book series that you can do. The first one is called a dynamic series. And a dynamic series is probably what most people think about when they think about a book series, where there's one overarching storyline and each book kind of adds to that, and it takes you through a character's journey. Books like the Hobbit series and the Hunger Games, those are some examples of a dynamic series. The next series type is called a static series. Now, a static series is where you're following the same character or characters, but each book is more of a standalone. So you're not really following one journey. Instead, you're following the character as they go about their life, as they go about whatever the different journeys that they go on. Examples of a static series are things like the Nancy Drew series, Curious George, and the Berenstain Bears. Now, the third type of series is called an anthology series. And an anthology series is kind of more like what they do with comic books, where instead of you following the same character, it's really all about the world. So all of these characters in each book all belong to the same world or the same universe. Think of like the Marvel comics and DC comics, that kind of stuff. So those are the three main types of series that you can do. When it comes to children's books, specifically picture books, you're usually going to be doing static series. The dynamic series, those are more for like young adult novels and things like that. But even in middle grade, you usually want to do a static series, something where they don't have to really have a vested interest into the entire series. They can just kind of pick and choose which books they want to read or they want read to them, whichever, depending on the age group. But so what we're going to be talking about mainly here is a static series. But again, there are three different types, and you can play around with the different types depending on your business model. But for most of you, especially if you're looking to do children's books, meaning picture books, you're probably going to want to focus on static series. Now with that, the main question is, should I create a children's book series? Obviously, I can't tell you 100% what you should do for your own business, but I would say, generally speaking, I usually suggest that if you have the bandwidth, if you have the ideas, or you think you possibly could grow it into a series is definitely a great way to go. And let me share with you some pros and cons on creating a children's book series. Let's start with the pros. The first pro is you get increased keyword of discoverability, meaning when you're uploading a book and it's in a series, yeah, we can put some keywords in the title and the subtitle, again, assuming that it makes sense and that it flows properly. You don't want to keyword stuff. But if you can actually put that in your series, well, that's one more spot that you can put in keywords. So for example, if you look at things like Curious George, usually the series is going to have Curious George's name in it, and then each of the titles will as well. So again, it's just one more spot to put keywords that will help your readers and future readers find your book even better. And again, especially with Amazon and most algorithms, it's all about relevancy. So if you've got the similar keywords in the series and in the actual title, then it shows that it's that relevant. And then especially if people go and buy it and everything else and leave reviews, again, that just shows the algorithm how dialed in and how relevant that keyword is to your book. The second pro when it comes to creating a book series is cross-promotion. And this is actually true whether you're doing a book series or if you're doing any kind of creating multiple books within the same niche and using the same author name. Because by them existing, they kind of cross-promote each other. But especially if it's a series, if they've read one book in your series, there's a much better chance they're going to be interested in your next book. Again, whether it's a dynamic series, so they're following the whole storyline, or if it's what we're talking about right now, which is a static series. So if they read about your character going through, like Curious George, if they're reading about Curious George and going to the zoo, and they might want to read about Curious George in this next adventure that he went on. So again, if you create that kind of world and you create these books, they can cross-promote each other. The third pro to creating a children's book series is kind of what I was just talking about, which is called read-through. Now, if you have a dynamic series, you've got a much better chance of read-through, because if they read book 1, they're going to read book 2 and book 3. But if you have a static series, they don't necessarily have to read them in a certain order, but you still, if you've created characters that your readers are going to fall in love with, then they're going to want to see what they do on the next adventure and the next one. And so you don't have to on your cover put book 1 or book 2, because it's not dynamic, it's static. They can pick and choose whichever order they want. But you can get that read through where you promote one book. Let's say you're running ads to it, or you've got one on, on sale or something like that. You don't have to do that to all your books. You do it to one of them, and when people fall in love with that, then they're going to be checking out your other books again, because they're cross-promoting each other, and because they fall in love with those characters, then again, you've got much greater chance of read-through. And the fourth pro to creating a children's book series kind of ties into the last two, which is it is a great way to gain loyal, repeat customers. Those people that just fall in love with your characters. They fall in love with the little nuances that they have, the man with a yellow hat or whatever. These little things that make them keep coming back to each of the books that you put out. And most importantly, gets them anticipating that next one that you're going to do. So that way, when you put them up on pre-order, they can actually start selling before you even have it launched. And those are some great reasons why you really want to consider creating a children's book series. Now, it's not all rainbows and unicorn farts. I mean, there are some cons to creating a children's book series. So let's talk about the 3 cons to creating a children's book series. The first one is you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent with not just the characters that are in there. I mean, you can add new characters here and there, but your main character or characters, they need to look the same. Your illustrations need to be the same. Even if you use different illustrators, they need to tie together. They need to be able to look at this character and know that it's the same character that they read in the previous book. But also, within that, just your covers alone. Your covers need to have similar color schemes. Your name, the author name that you have on there, needs to be about the same, around the same spot. It needs to look the same font type, and all that really needs to be part of that cover and really be consistent across all the other books. Looking at the inside, the layout needs to be similar, the formatting. So it can be kind of jarring if they read your book and the first book they read, your words are on the left side and your pictures are on the right, and then the next one it's reversed, and then on some of them there's words on both sides. I mean, it really can get jarring and not really have that continuity that you want when you're creating a book series. So you really need to be consistent with your characters as well as your overall layout, format, and cover design. Now this leads right into the second con for creating a children's book series, which is very similar, and it again has to do with consistency, but this time I'm talking about consistency with the publishing schedule. If you want to get those repeat customers and loyal customers that I talked about in the pros, well then you need to make sure that you have a consistent publishing schedule. You want them to be able to anticipate that the next book is going to come out, whether you publish once a year, you publish once a quarter, or once a month. You want them to be able to anticipate that. Obviously, when you're first starting out, you really can kind of set that for yourself, and people aren't going to get really set and knowing what to expect. But once you really start getting into it, you start setting that consistency early on, and you can really get some loyal customers that start buying those books on pre-order right when you first put them up, because they know that you're going to publish the next one in a month or a quarter or whatever it is. So when you do set a schedule, make sure it's something that you can stick with. And the third con when it comes to creating a children's book series is, honestly, it can lean to burnout. You can very easily get burnout on ideas when it comes to, what can I do for this with this character? I've already had them do this and this and this, and I've added these extra characters, but what more can I do to them? It's very easy to kind of run out of ideas. And so there are ways to to kind of move around that, one thing I like to do is I like to reach out to my email list and ask some suggestions, maybe have a contest and say, I'm looking for an idea for the next series or the next book in the series. What other adventures would you like to see whatever your main character is go on? And really, and whoever wins that, they can get a free copy of the book, even if it's just a digital copy. There's so many different things you can do. You can just give them a shout out in the book, whatever. They're loyal customers. They would just want to be part of this. And so, that's one way around it. Another way around it is, well, to start a different series. It's not unheard of for for authors to create a series and then create a side series, whether it's in that same world, kind of like the Anthology series that I talked about earlier, where you have these little spin-off books, or it could be a completely different series. And the great thing is if you have those loyal customers and they love this series, at some point, especially if you stop publishing in that series, they're going to read them all. So now you've got something else for them to read as well. But again, to focus, I would say if you're going to do a series, pick one series. Even if you don't know how many books are going to be in it right away, kind of figure out what your ideas are, how many books you think you want in that series, even if it's just minimal. Just say 3 or 5 or whatever. Start to get ideas for what those stories are going to be and figure out what your schedule, your production schedule is going to look like. And then as it grows, either you continue with that series, or again, if you start getting burnt out on ideas, then you can kind of pivot and create another series. But once again, I absolutely recommend that if you like writing children's books and you want to do this hopefully full time, and you want to do this as a way of earning income, then you really should consider creating a children's book series. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did and you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and click that bell notification so you get alerted each and every time I put out new videos, just like this one. And I put out videos more than just about children's books, but regardless of what you're interested in, it would mean the world to me if you considered subscribing. But don't let the learning stop here. I've got another video right there all about children's books. So check that out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you've already seen that, or maybe you're not ready for that yet, YouTube says that this video is what you need to check out. So I'll catch you in one of these videos, and remember to write right.